Hey guys, my name is Terry. We're back with the VW Jetta here, and this here Jetta, as you may know, has some few burnt wires, and it's not quite as bad as I thought it was initially looking at it. And we'll go into all that a little bit later. So we're left right now with the repair. Alright, so we got different ways we can repair this. We can take and use, say, fast-on terminals. If you're not familiar with a fast-on terminal, this is what it looks like. This particular one here is insulated, and here's the ignition switch, and we can take, and of course we can just take them and just slide them on. Alright, but of course if you look at this, it's going to be, you won't be able to use a connector. Alright, if you use an uninsulated one, this is not going to pass down through that connector, so you got to sit there and drill out the cavity for this to pass down through. Alright, my idea of that is M-I-C-K-E-Y-S-H-I-T. Alright, so it's a shitty method of trying to put this back on there. These are good for if you got a stationary component, say inside of an electrical cabinet, and there's not going to be any vibration or movement or something of that. So this idea, I took it and threw it out. Second method. This is the one that I was leaning for, and this is why this video is probably taking a little bit long, you know, to where we are now, you know, for the little bit of delay. I work for the company that actually makes the contacts, the terminals that goes inside this connector. All right, they're called timer terminals. 4 different types out there. We've got micro, we've got power, or junior rather. Then in type, with these 2 types, we have a micro power, we have a junior power. I think these are micro, okay? So I was going to get some samples through the company I worked at, called their guy to say, yeah, no problem. Just let me have some pictures, and I can ID them for you and send you out the samples, blah, blah, blah. Well, a couple of days goes by, don't hear nothing. Finally he writes back and he says in the email, says, I can't ID these terminals, so I'm going to have to turn it over to the timer terminal engineer. Well, 3 days pass, gets back, and he couldn't figure out what it was. Unbelievable. So there's a whole week just went by wasted. Not to mention too now, these terminals, it's like you're going to have to buy these things in a quantity probably, and most importantly, this here crimper for these terminals is going to probably cost you about a couple of $100. I thought I'd make a nice little video, try to show the whole thing, how to extract these pins. By the way, there's two different types of extractors out there. One's for the micro and one for the junior terminals. They're not cheap. So with the time span and all of this that's went and got wasted, then I went to our third option. Third option is go out to the junkyard, find you a harness, cut it out, and we're going to splice it in. So that's what we're going to do. So let's head out to the junkyard and let's go see what we can find. Alright guys, we're out here at the junkyard now, so I'm out here looking at the different VWs they got. Don't have any Jettas out here, but we got, I guess about 6 Beetles, and we have a Passat right over here. Now, the Passat, it looks very similar as far as in the steering column, the covers over the top, so I think I'm going to tackle this one right over here. So here's this Passat. Got the cover on the top, got the one on the bottom. So I'm going to start digging this apart and just kind of see what we got here after we get it apart, and then we'll know if that's going to be the right one or not. Alright guys, so I'll catch you in the next shot. Alright guys, we got through taking this here harness out. This is what we got. Alright, looks pretty darn good shape. I've compared it to the other one. The wires are the same as far as in the right location. Some of the color coding is different, but I don't care about that. Pins look like they're in good shape. So we're going to be, looks like it's going to be a go. You know, while I'm here, I do have a new switch, but you know what? I'm going to go ahead and pick that up too. Got a relay here. I think this one is for the starter lockout relay. Yeah, just in case we need it. So I'm just going to pick it up while we're here. Oh, and also while I was here, if you remember there was a screw that was missing that was up under the bottom, and some of these screw heads look like they were kind of rounded over, you know, where somebody else had been in there. So while I'm here also, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick up these screws. This is a late model Passat, so nobody's been in there. So these screws look all pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and grab these too. All right guys, let's get the hell out of here. It's hot as hell. So guys, you saw that we got the parts out there from the junkyard. So here's the harness. You get a little bit closer view of it. When you saw it, you know, it had all this here tape wrapped around it. So what I've done is I took and cut all this tape off, and when you do that, you're going to find this here sticky goo all over it. So what I did is I took some adhesive removal, like say Gooby Gone, you can get others out there, spray each wire, and then I come back with a paper towel and wiped it off. Then I came back with some rubbing alcohol, went down it with that. Then finally I took a clean, dry paper towel, and I did it one more time. So now these wires are they're all good. You don't have no goop on them or anything like that. Now, most important thing that I wanted to look at was, is there every wire in the right position to what's on this Jetta? As you know, this came out of a late model Passat. Alright, so look at here. Every wire is individual, okay? Every wire, right? There is a little difference in the wiring, like this particular position right here. The color coding is different, and it's only one wire, alright? But that's no big deal. The red wire, this wire color here is different. I think on the other one was a brown with an orange, brown with a red, I think. This one here looks like totally red, alright? But it's no big deal. This wire right here is a black wire, and this wire is actually a little bit larger than was on the Jetta here, alright? So what I'm going to do, and you can look at the terminals in here, they're all in pretty good shape. Before I put it all back together, I'm going to put some contact cleaner in here, and also I'm going to finish it up with some Deox, kind of prevent any kind of corrosion in the future. Alright, now let me take you over here to the car, and I'm going to show you the wires, okay? I'm going to show you the biggest thing that I think was a whole issue here. I don't think it was a problem where we had too much current. I don't think there was an ignition switch. It shorted off to another contact and then it just blew up. However, I did have a problem with the ignition switch. We'll go into that a little bit later video. I think I'm going to just throw all the diagrams in a later video here, and then we can go over it. That way, if you want to watch it, you can. If you don't have to. But at least the information will be there. And I'll just give you my thoughts and what I think. So anyway, the wiring in the car, it only went back about maybe 1.5 inches, okay? So it looks like, I think, was just a bad connection, oxidized, heated up, and then that heated up the insulation on the wire, and then of course, then we had we had 3 wires that actually got burnt, okay? So we'll go over that later on. But let me take you over to the car. Let me just show you what we got. Alright guys, now look, what we're looking at is the wires that's up under the Jetta here. Now look, what I've done is I took and I just cut the wires, I cut the terminals off, and I'm gonna butt splice these with a heat shrink type tubing that's built onto the butt splice terminal, and it also has a sealant built in. I'll show you what I'm going to use. But here's what I want to show you, the biggest thing. If you look right here, you see this wire? Let me get you up there a little bit better. You see this wire right here? My first thought when I saw this, I thought this was one wire. It is actually 2 wires in type of like a ribbon cable. If I can get this here out of the way. And I don't have a lot of room up here to work with either. But if you look at it, you see how these wires are kind of like molded together? That is actually 2 separate wires. This here, thermoplastic, that's on these 2 wires, and in between, it is very, very thin. It is not as thick as a typical wire. That is why I think they must have had some kind of problems in this thing, and that's why they went to individual wires that I showed you on that harness connector that came out of that Passat. Alright, so I'm going to try to split this down with a utility knife. I'm going to do all that. I'm going to come back, put my splices on, and then I'll show you the repair on that later on. But anyway, I want to show you where we're at, so I'm going to be working on that, putting this together. Now let me show you what I'm going to be using. Let me show you what I'm going to be using as far as what type of splices here. Alright, these are the butt splice type connectors that I'm going to be using here. Okay, you can see they're made by Raychem. Of course, Raychem has been bought out by Tyco Electronics, so let's say they're Tyco Electronics. Also, Tyco Electronics has changed the name. It's also now known as TE Connectivity. Alright, these right here, It's a heat shrinkable, and it has a sealant built in. So I like to use the ones that's got a heat shrink, and when you shrink them, and it'll melt the sealant inside, and it'll make a permanent seal, keep out any kind of oxidation going on in the future. All right, tool for that I'm going to be using is designed for these here type terminals. This here tool is a AD-1522. So it's designed as a ratcheting type tool. Okay. And that's what I'm going to use. Alright guys, so I'm going to catch you later. And one more last thing. So when I cut these wires, I want to know exactly where these wires are going to go into this connector, right? Because I got different wire colors. I got, you know, I need to know for sure. So what I've done, just so you up on the same page with me, everything that you see here is I took and drew this up in CAD. Alright. Now just right off the bat, you see how I have this little dash line going around these three wires? Well, these three wires right here, alright, it's the red with the gray going down to the starter solenoid was burnt, and it was burnt over to these two wires also. Alright, this one right here is a black wire, 14 gauge. Alright, it's going up to this terminal on 15, got the red wire, it's coming down. I've actually measured the wires, everything to figure out what size wire they are. I put it in the European where they use a cross-sectional area, millimeters squared, and they show too about what their size is, and I cross-reference that over to what we use in the U.S., which is a AWG, which is American wire gauge. This is the diameter of the wire. All right, so this is what you see. Just show you one little difference. You can see the difference in the colors, right? You see this is red. Okay, no problem. You can see here this is red. Now what's in red in the block here is off of the Passat. What's in the black here is on the Jetta. So you can see that they did change the wire color. So example, this is brown with red. And let's see if we got another one. This one down here you can see is the original is black with red. But now they have two wires coming out of it, which is a yellow with a black tracer. And over here, this is still the same. This is red. Over here, down to the solenoid, you can see that they changed the color. Went from a red gray to a red black, and up here it stayed black. And you can see right here, they made this here wire a little bit slightly larger. But the whole point that I'm talking about here is that they made all of these wires separate now, and we don't have this here little bit of a ribbon cable thing going on where the insulation is very, very thin. So, you know, my thinking is that the wires are all bundled together. We have the black wire, which is normally carrying the current, and it was going out and using it's feeding a lot of stuff, airbags, all kind of different modules out here. And this here current going through the wire, which normally you're going to have current. Anytime you have current going through a wire, you're going to have the wire to heat. Wire's going to heat, and then it's going to get right over there, and it's next to this here type ribbon cable. Insulation on that's very thin. Then it heats up. Then it melts. The next thing you know, now the wire's touching together. Okay, so I think that was just pretty much it. When I put this thing back together, I don't like this tape wrapped all around the bundles of wires. The wires can't dissipate the heat. So I'm going to leave the tape off, okay? I'm going to use tie wraps, put it together, but also going to keep that tape off of there so it can help dissipate this heat. Also, I think we'll be a little bit better shape too, because we have the wires being separated a little bit, although from the point of where I make a splice going down, the wires will be intact. But those wires are still okay going down. I've already checked all that. So I don't think we had an issue with too much current causing the problem, okay? So I just want to get you guys up to speed where we're at, and so I'll catch you guys, you know, a little bit later here. I'll show you the repair, what I've done. Alright guys, I was going to show you some of this video as far as, you know, repairing it, put it back together, but hey, why not? Alright, got my ignition switch. It's brand new. I want you to take notice of it. You see these little plastic black tabs out here? If you notice that it's got a groove here on each side. Can you see that? Okay, now if I flip it over, there is no groove. You don't have to worry because it won't go in but one way. You want the grooves to be out just like this, alright? And it's going to line up with this here two screws. One will go down into this slot, one will go up here in this slot. Grooves facing you. Now when you get this switch, all right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a screwdriver, I'm going to push it in, okay, and it's in the off position. When you get it, it's going to be in the on position, so you have to make sure that whatever position your tumblers are over there where your key is at, it has to line up. Now just to show you, I've got it in the on position just like it is when you buy it. Alright, now I'm going to put it in. Grooves are facing me, as you see right here. Now I'm going to push it in, and if you notice, we got about 1/8 of an inch before it goes all the way to being flush. Alright, so what you want to do, my key is in the off position. I'm going to take the screwdriver, I'm going to push it in, turn it back to the left, there'll be the lock or the off position. I'm going to come back, grooves facing me, and you see it goes all the way down. Now, while it's all the way down, kind of push it in with your fingers, and then come back and then tighten up these 2 little tiny screws. So I'm going to tighten this here one on the bottom, snug him up, and then I'm going to go up here to the top. I can see the screw. Let me get a little more light here. And I'm going to just hang the light right there. Hopefully you guys can see it, but this screws right up there. You'll see it if you have to dig into this thing. And just snug him up a little bit. Now, just to make sure that everything is working with the tumblers and everything is lined up, I'm going to take the key, I'm going to put them in. There's the on position, there's the start. Back to off or lock, and back out. So that all worked good. Alright, now for my harness connector. Now, if you notice, we have 2 posts here. 2 of them are small, and then there's one that's larger. So we can look on our connector right here. We can look on our connector, we can find that. There's our 2 small posts where they're going to go. This is where the large one is going to go. So I'm going to come here, line them up, needs to turn around, and he's going to go on there just like, let me get that lined up. So they'll line up, won't go on but one way, and then just push them on. Alright, so now I'm going to be here splicing these wires right into these like that. Probably leave me a loop, probably, oh, maybe something like that. Yeah, make sure I get all my wires down. Now I've already done one. If you want to look right here, you remember that one I was telling you about was the ribbon cable type job here, the red wire and the red wire with the gray tracer. Okay, I've already got those on there. I actually took me a board, put it right up under there, laid that wire right there on top. Then I took a utility knife, right, brand new blade, and then I'm laying this here wire, these 2 wires with the ribbon type cable, and went right down through the center. Went about maybe 1/4 inch and came back, and believe it or not, it actually went into the other wire, and some of the insulation was actually showing some of the other wire just being exposed. So I'm looking at that. That is a pain in the butt right here. So what I did is I just took the butt splices, I put them on there, and at this point right now they are insulated. Before I do put the other wires in there, I am going to check between these 2 with an ohm meter just to make sure that they're not grounded or touching anywhere, but I think they're okay. And so basically we're going to get the rest of these wires in here, get spliced in there. So I just wanted to show you where I'm at right now. Hey guys, now I've got through with the repair here, so I've got all my butt splices, this wire here, I couldn't get this wire in with the other yellow black, but that's fine, you know, with a 14 gauge butt splice. Okay, and you can see the rest of them. I got these purposely fanned out for a little bit of heat dissipation, and I got it bundled up here with a couple of tie wraps. Okay, so what maybe what I'll do right now is I'll just show you the procedure, what I did to butt splice these, you know, for some of the guys that may not know. Okay, so let me show you that. Show you a little bit of procedure about using these butt splices here. This is for the ones that, you know, don't know what's going on here. Alright, this brings up a little story. I was going to do some wiring, and I was going to do some butt splices at work. I go to the electrician, the first one. He's got over 20 years experience, and I say, hey, let me borrow your wire strippers. So he goes to his toolbox, pulls out his wire strippers, and guess what he gives me? This. Needle nose pliers. I said, Lord, man, I said, you've been in here 20 years and this is what you're using to stripping wires? He said, yeah, it works good. I said, okay. I said, well, let me get back with you. So I go to the next electrician. He's got about 25 years experience. Guess what he gives me? He comes back and gives me this. Diagonal cutting pliers. I said, holy crap. Alright, so look, if you're going to do something, get a tool. It'll cost you about 10 bucks. Go ahead and get you a good pair of wire strippers. These are what I like to use. They're small, they're comfortable. Now, we're going to use this wire right here. This 14 gauge wire, right? You can cut the wire, come back, okay? Strip it, done, okay? Now, we got a butt splice. Now, we're going to take a butt splice, kind of twist your wires a little bit, and you want to get it down in there, right? Now you see how a little bit of it is showing? Alright, so I got it just a smidgen too long. So let me snip off a little bit. Let me come back. Let's slide him in there. Sometimes they'll be a little finicky. You might have to roll the strands of wires together just to get it back down in there. Alright, so it's down in there. Now get your wire crimpers. Okay? Now, we got different gauge wire. We'll go from 22 to 18. We're going to use this one. That'll be the pink butt splices. If you're using the blue, that's going to be 16 to 14. If you're using the yellow butt splices, that'll be 12 to 10 gauge. So we're going to put it right there. Okay, down, and it's crimped. Okay, let me just use this other end of the wire. We'll just strip him across there. Okay. All right. Let's get him down in there. Okay. Let's get him a little bit strand out, fixed up. Okay, get yourself down in there. Okay. There we go. Alright, come back. Same size. Right there. Strip. Crimp, and there we go. Okay, that's good. Now, come back and get the heat gun. Now the heat gun is going to melt the heat shrink, and it's also going to melt the sealant that's inside, and that's going to make a permanent connection there. So we're just going to come down, seal it. You can see it's starting to shrink. Okay. I'm doing this just in case somebody wanted to say, hey, we didn't see you do the repairs on the wires. How did you do it? So, okay, now you see what I did, okay? And that's pretty much it. So now it's all shrinked, it's sealed, and it's good to go. Now we know how to crimp wires. Now we're going to take a look at this, these terminals on this connector. What I want to do is I want to do a little bit of cleaning on the contacts, okay? Get you a little bit of light so you can see what's going on. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to clean these contacts up. Does that look good? Mm-hmm. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this right here. CRC Industrial Contact Cleaner. That's what we use at work. It does a pretty good job. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get in there. Just going to hit the terminals. Although this is, terminals look pretty good, but just a little safety measure, you know, as far as in, you might say a little bit of preventive maintenance. Okay? So we'll let that dry a little bit. Then I'm going to come back. I'm going to use this right here. It's going to be deoxit D100. This will actually chemically clean the contacts, okay? These terminals in there. So we're going to put a little bit of that in there. It also helps prevent oxidation from coming back. If I can get the little tube in there, okay? And then we're going to hit each one of the terminals here. Now all you're going to get is just a little quick burst, okay? And we'll let that go down in there, do its thing, okay? And I believe we got it. Alright, so we'll let that sit for a couple of minutes, make sure everything dries, okay? Okay, now after the connector terminals have dried up a little bit, I'm going to do it. One more thing is I'm going to take some of this right here. I'm going to put some dielectric silicone compound, okay? Just a smidgen is all we need. In fact, I might do it with my fingers here. Don't need much. Just a smidgen. This here will actually help prevent oxidation also, okay? Might have been just a little bit too much. Yeah, that looks good. A little bit right there. And maybe a little bit more, one more. Right in there. Okay. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay. We're going to take the connector, line up the posts, and just slide it right on. Okay. Originally I was going to put a fuse in here, but now looking at the diagrams a little bit closer, I think we'll be okay on that too. Okay guys, right before we close this video out, I thought it might be good just to see a shot of this here relay center. So this way you can see what's going on up here in this thing. One other last thing guys, if you're going to get down in there, you remember where I was trying to get to the screws on the side of the steering wheel? One was over here, one was over here, and you had to turn it. Well, I could not find a screwdriver, as you know, anywhere locally. So I ordered this one, and I used it at the Junkyard, and it worked beautiful, okay? This is a #1 Phillips screwdriver. #1 works great on those screws. And just so you can see the part number, it's made by Exolite. Part number is XST-1010, okay? And if you want to get another longer screwdriver, and not that you need it, but while I was ordering it, screwdrivers, I went ahead and ordered this here screwdriver from the same company. And this here is a R188, also made by Exolite. But it turns out you don't really need this for the job that we were doing. And so I just picked it up just because I was getting another long screwdriver that was definitely needed. Okay? Alright guys, let's do the moment of truth. Let's fire this thing up, see if it'll fire up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the battery cable on, and I'm just going to twist it so it's snug. I don't want it bolted down just in case if something happens here, we see smoke that's being let out where it's not supposed to. I can come back over here, get this cable off real quick. Also, got a fire extinguisher over here, just playing it safe. Okay, so let's go see what this thing will do. Alright, now with the battery cable on, I'm just looking, just make sure I don't see anything that's going on that shouldn't be going on. Everything's looking fine. So, let's try it and see what it's going to do. So I'm going to stick the key in.
Ooh.
Turning it to on. Looking around, see if I see anything out of the ordinary. Everything looks good. No problems. So let's go ahead and let's get this thing, see if it'll crank. Pushing the pedal in, going to crank.
Here we go.
Alright, everything is still looking good. No problems. Alright, just for a quick check on the amps. Going to a DC amp probe here. Opening the jaws a few times, that'll demagnetize the jaws if they get magnetized. Hitting the 0 button. And let's see where I want to get onto. Let's try this wire right here. 0.2 amps. No problem. Okay, let's try this one right here. So small, nothing to mention of. Let's try this one over here. About 1.5. Okay, looks pretty good to me. Let's try this one right here. Okay, this one's for the starter solenoid right there. Of course, ain't gonna be nothing on it because we're not in the start position now. And did I get this one? Let's try him out. 0.1, let's call it 0.2, 0.6, 0.22, nothing as far as current. Alright guys, I'd say this is a fix. These wires, while we're talking about these wires, they're pretty much, all of them look like 14 gauge with the exception of the very small wire, which is 18 gauge. Now for your reference, 14 gauge is, you know, it's sized for like a 50, should be like a 15 amp circuit. 15 amps is what it should, you know, max wire size, amperage rather. 18 gauge is good for like 7.5 amps. Okay, so I'm satisfied with this. It looks good. Alright, so anyway, can't think of anything else except one other thing I told you about. We'll do some wiring diagrams in the next video. But I tell you what, you know, I don't get a lot of views on the wiring diagrams. I don't know, maybe most people don't really care about that stuff, and the last thing I want to do is waste you guys' time. If you want me to go over the wiring diagrams, let me know. If you don't, that's fine, let me know. And you know, just save you guys some time. So I mentioned about doing some wiring diagrams in say the next video, just kind of complete it, follow it up. But if you guys want to see that, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to close this video series out, and I'm going to put all this stuff back together. I think you guys can see how it all went back together here. And so you guys take care, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Thank you.
You're welcome, since you're driving the car, huh?
Exactly.
All right.